This lesson is going to be about Herod's Gate, Gate of the Flower. But we're going to talk a little about it. This is an old-time picture from the late 1800s. But this gate was modest in size. It opened from a wall tower, and it's one of the newest gates of Jerusalem. When Suleiman Magnificent was ruling, it was built around that time, I think around the 1530s. But they had a small wicket gate that was situated in the eastern side wall of the tower, and but it was rarely open. Formerly, it was in a sprawling residential area within the gate known as Bezetha, or New City. It was settled during the late Second Temple period to accommodate Jerusalem's growing population. The modern one was redone around that first period. By 1875, in order to provide a passageway to the new neighborhoods, which were beginning to be built north of the old city, the Ottomans opened this new gate in the northern front wall of the tower, and it faces Sultan Suleiman Street, and it offers an easier access, and it closed the original side gate. The gate was on the side. Right, let me show you somewhere right in that area. They closed that. Okay. And in 1998, and during several subsequent excavation seasons, the latest one was in 2004. We were there at that time, but I didn't get to see the dig or nothing. But anyway, archaeologists of the IAA dug in the eastern area of this gate, and they focused on 3 areas there near the wall, which they found 9 different archaeological layers from the Iron Age up through the Ottoman period. But one of the most significant discoveries they made was a structure from the Second Temple period. They found a complete segment of the Byzantine Roman wall. They found remnants of a massive construction underneath this wall. And these remnants were identified as portions of a fort from the Muslim period and from the Middle Ages. These discoveries do point out the importance of the rulers who gave of the city who gave to this fortification. It's in the northern wall of Jerusalem. Historical accounts indicate that during the Crusades, during 1099, that Godfrey of Bouillon entered the city through this area, through a breach here, slightly east of this area, and it's called Herod's Gate, Gate of the Flower. So I don't have a lot else to say about that. We'll go on with it though. I do want to say, if you look up to the in the distance, right, well, if I can get this thing to work right in this area here, you can see just a little bit right in there of the Damascus Gate. You can see here that hillside is rock and dirt, a lot of sheep. The new gate is in front, and the side one I showed it to you. There's an ice cream truck in front of the gate. That's pretty cool. You can't see the gate real good. This is a modern gate picture I made when I was there, but you can't see it. But it hasn't changed that much. The area is still pretty much the same. They built stairs up there. They fixed those. Now that's, you know, a little bit better. But if that hadn't been blocking it, you could see the whole thing. It's a little boy in the back. This is showing the inside of the gate on the left and the outside of the gate on the right. In Hebrew, Bezetha or Betzita, it was also called that by Josephus, and was considered part of the new city, and it was a suburb of Jerusalem, north and northwest of the temple. It was built opposite, right across from the Tower of Antonia, and the Antonia housed, you know, the Roman soldiers. It's near the convent of the Sisters of Zion, near the Etzihomo Arch, or the Via Dolorosa Arch, Via Dolorosa Street, and it extends as far as Herod's Gate. Originally, this part of the city was outside the area, enclosed by the second wall during the reign of Agrippa, and it was enclosed by the third wall in the time of Josephus. So there's a lot of history I could get stuck up on, but You know, I don't want to do that. I want it to be, you know, get a little bit out of it. Just a lot of history, but topographical maps still show the contours and elevation here. And during the outbreak of the First Jewish-Roman War, Cestius Gallus set fire to this sparsely inhabited part of the city. So I guess during some of the Roman period it wasn't inhabited that much. So, all right, let's go on. Okay, now you can see a map here, and you can see Herod's Gate right here. This is the Kidron Valley right here. This is outside the wall here, the road to Jericho. But as Pilate's district, it's called Herod's Gate. Antipas' house, now known as Church of the Flagellation. The picture will be coming in a minute. But let's read this. It says, and as soon as he knew that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who himself also was at Jerusalem at that time. And when Herod saw Jesus, he was exceeding glad, for he was desirous to see him of a long season, because he had heard many things of him, and he hoped to have seen some miracle done by him. And he questioned with him in many words, but he answered him nothing. And then the priests and scribes stood and vehemently accused him. And Herod, with his something or other, set him at naught, and mocked him, and arrayed him in a gorgeous robe, and sent him again to Pilate. And the same day Pilate and Herod made friends together, for they were at enmity between themselves. Now, Herod's Gate's a Christian name of the gate from the 16th or 17th century. But in Luke chapter 23, which is what I just read, in 7, Jesus is sent by Pilate to Herod, and which is Herod Antipas, and then he's sent back to Pilate. And a Christian tradition associates a somewhat nearby house near the Church of the Flagellation with Herod's palace. Another tradition claims that the nearby church of Nicodemus was Herod Antipas's house. So I don't guess they really know. Anyway, the gate's name comes from Christian pilgrims in the Middle Ages who thought a nearby church was the palace of Herod Antipas, to whom Jesus was sent by Pilate. And the present gate was opened in the wall in 1875. Above the gates, a guard room and iron steps that lead to the Ramparts Walk. And the Ramparts Walk is a walk where it's like built up and you can walk all the way around the top of those city walls up until a point near the Dung Gate, and then it runs out. Between I think the Dung Gate and the Eastern Gate, you can't walk on it. But in 1986, the Jerusalem Foundation supported a project to restore the gate and to construct an entrance plaza that was previously a parking area. The new stone-paved entrance was dedicated on the 20th anniversary of the city's reunification in 1987. As you know, Israel got Jerusalem back in June of 1967, actually, during the Six-Day War. But they created an area for people to gather, rest, and view the gate. The foundation supported improvements to the area immediately inside the gates in 1999, and work included paving, repairs to steps, improvements to storefronts. So they actually went inside the gate as well. This down here is where the St. Stephen's Gate, because the wall goes like this, somewhere like this, kind of. And this one is Herod's. So the red on the left is Calvary. Inside the walls. That's the one inside. The one on the outside will be over here. Okay, let's go to the next one. And we've gone to an area inside the city from Herod's Gate, and this is called the Church of the Condemnation. And we went into, it shows kind of the story of how Jesus was taken to Pilate, and Pilate, he was sent to Herod, and all this stuff. And so, and here you have a picture inside of this church. You can see the cross and see him, see their statues and all this stuff. It's a pretty neat church. And this is a picture in the church on the floor that shows a Roman game they believe to have been for choosing lots, possibly used to test his guilt, or maybe the soldiers just playing a game. Who knows for sure what it was for, but it's there on the floor. And this is 3 pictures here. There's one on the left shortly after you enter the Lions Gate. It's just a little ways come down Suleiman Street from Herod's Gate. The inside of this church has the best acoustics I've ever heard in my life. It's so great. Anyway, there's a few others with good acoustics, but like Caiaphas' house, but this one to me was the best. It's St. Anne's. The pool in the back, you can see the pool of Bethesda back here in the very back. This pool here. Got one here. This is kind of an example of this one. Of what? Because there's not enough of this one left to tell, really. But the pool in the back dates back to the time of Herod the Great and was built in the form of two basins, northern basin and a southern basin, in a natural valley collecting rainwater. And the two basins, which you can see in this picture here, the two basins surrounded by 5 porticos or columns were separated by a dam. You can see the dam right here. The northern pool was used to collect fresh rainwater, and the southern pool was used for religious reasons or for bathing sick people who are seeking healing. And this is where Jesus healed the paralytic man who'd been sick for 38 years. It was the event was described by John. He says, "Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, in Hebrew called Bethzatha, which has 5 porticos. In these lay a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, paralyzed. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years, and when Jesus saw him and knew that he had been lying there a long time, he said to him, 'Do you want to be healed?' The sick man answered him, 'Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water's troubled, and while I'm going, another steps down before me.' Jesus said to him, 'Rise, take up your pallet and walk.' And at once the man was healed, and he took up his pallet and walked." Can you imagine? He didn't even have to get into the pool. All these other people have been trying to get into the pool where they could be healed, and this man didn't even have to get in there. Jesus come along and healed him. That's awesome. Okay, now the history of Jerusalem and Bethesda over the centuries has been very tumultuous, and this is the inside of St. Anne's Church. Like I said, lovely acoustics. In the first centuries, the northern pool was gradually covered up, and during Roman times, the southern pool continued to function for ritual bathing and healing and stuff. Let's see. So this is evidenced by the discovery of ex votos in honor of the Roman god Serapis. In Christian times, the story of the healing of the paralytic handed down in the Gospels did not die out. And in the 5th century, under Bishop Juvenal of Jerusalem, a large Byzantine church was built here, and that's the one you're seeing now, I think. No, this is one after that. Unfortunately, it was destroyed during the Persian invasion of 614 AD. Not much remains of it except a few walls and arches, some parts of the column and their heads, and in the northern part, a large fragment of a beautiful mosaic in what may have been a chapel for keeping the relics of the saints, a martyrium, in other words. And in the 7th century, they rebuilt the site, or tried to rebuild it actually, but they only built a small chapel because the Muslims wouldn't let them, during that time period, build anything bigger. So, and during the Muslim period, that chapel in the southern pool was abandoned and destroyed. And when Jerusalem was taken over by the Christians and during the Crusades in 1099, on the side of the ruins of the chapel, the Crusaders built a small monastery, and then next to it they built this large church dedicated to St. Anne, saying it was the Mother of Mary. I don't know. On this side, according to tradition, there was a house at one time where the Virgin Mary's parents were supposed to have lived, so they say, and where she was born, but I don't know about that. But anyway, and you can take that with a grain of salt as to whether the traditions are true. Probably not, but St. Anne's is a magnificent Romanesque church built of light stone. It's beautiful. There are no icons or decorations inside it, which would be typical in an Eastern church. It is built for prayer in the Latin. The church is simple, but it's austere. It's big. It's huge. And it has such beautiful acoustics. It has a central nave and 2 aisles. Open windows don't allow a lot of light in, but the body of the church is supported by big pillars. You can see the huge pillars there, and they got capitals at the bottom and top, really. After entering the church on the left hand, you can see a sculpture of St. Anne with her little daughter. Deuteronomy 20, which is important in Judaism, says, "Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might." So I guess they hold to that. And so, as I say, thanks for watching. I pray that you'll be blessed. Hope you got something out of this short teaching, and you come back and hear us again. Thank you for watching.